All right, welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Dave Fields. Today I have Heath. How do you say your last name?
Oh, man, it's the worst. Balltzglier. Yeah.
Balltzglier.
Well, here's the thing. My family grew up saying Balltzglier. And then Jamie and I got married, my wonderful wife. And she was like, why do we say Balltzglier? There's no I between the Z and the G.
Yeah.
You know, there's 11 consonants in a row, or 6 consonants in a row. And so we were thinking like maybe it'd be easier on our kids if we teach them how to say it. But I mean, it's still a nightmare, you know.
Yeah.
I should have gone by my first name and middle name.
I don't know if people get made fun of, kids get made fun of as much now as they did back then with names and.
I don't know. Are your kids in middle school yet?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
They don't get
public middle school.
This doesn't count though where we live.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, maybe
kids go
not.
to
Olivia, our 13-year-old, she gets some good ones.
Does she?
Well, yeah. Balltzglier. There's a lot that can come from that.
Yeah.
Good jokes.
Tell us, give us some background. Where you grew up.
Yeah, dude. I was born in North Carolina. That didn't really count. Lived there till I was 3. Moved to a little town called, outside of a little town called Griffin, Georgia, like hour south of the airport in Atlanta. My dad took a position at a church as the staff evangelist. Yeah, so like the people, like you're on staff to go and, you know, like be on the road.
Save people.
Get them saved, dude. And so we were on the road from the time I was 2 weeks old until I was 16, 48 weeks out of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, we would go and my parents are just amazing. You know, they're wonderful humans, and they'll be down here soon. We're gonna have a good time. But yeah, so we would like travel, be at a new church every week, you know. And in some ways, I like that, you know, because I was the new guy.
You're preaching or singing?
Singing, yeah, mostly, yeah.
Would y'all sing as a whole family?
Yeah, dude.
It's like a partridge.
It wasn't cool, you know, especially when I got like, when I was around maybe 13 or 14 and I'm like wearing matching clothes with my siblings, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, dude, this is not cool at all. But yeah, we would go and like sing for love offerings and, you know, like, because my dad's like super faith dude, always has been. And dude, I grew up seeing like God actually provide in some crazy ways. You know what I mean? Like answer real specific prayers. But yeah, so we would just like show up and sing and be there for a week and whatever people gave, and then we'd, you know, holy roll on to the next place.
Dude, that's such a wild way to grow up.
Yeah.
You're looking back at it, I mean, when you're younger, you think it's normal, but like...
Oh, dude, I had no idea, you know, like... Yeah, we had so many good memories. Our family, like, was super close. We got an insane amount of time together. You know, like, I'm thankful for the quantity that we have. You know what I mean? Like, and that we had. Yeah, dude, we were just on the road. I remember the police pulling us over one time. Because my little brother and I were, like, super bored. I mean, there's no internet. You know, like, we're not watching TV rolling down. It's not like a tour bus, you know. And so we would sit like crisscross applesauce up on the dash. It had this big deep dash, and put our foreheads on the windshield, and you know, and just be like for hours, which could be part of what's wrong with me now. And the cops pulled my dad over and like, hey man, you don't have to like make them ride in a car seat, but you can't let them ride on the dash, you know. It's like, well, we're in here all the time. And, yeah, dude. So we did that.
Would y'all just stay at hotels?
No, man. We had all these different rigs, you know, like trucks and trailers and RVs, and we went through. We burned a bunch of them up. Wow. Yeah, dude.
Did you have an actual base house that you'd come back to?
Yeah. Like the church gave us a parsonage, you know. It was this, and it felt humongous when we would come home, you know, because eventually there were 8 kids. So I've got 5 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the oldest, And so when we would come home, it was a 3-bedroom double wide, had these 4 big pine trees out front, no grass in the front yard. Had the best time in that dirt, Had a weight bench out in the yard next to the well, so you could just drink from the water hose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the 90s. We were talking about that earlier. It's good, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'd be home, and it's funny, everybody felt strange because that trailer felt huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started taking the summers off, and then he eventually took a church and became a worship pastor, and then opened this little recording studio in our town. And that's where I kind of first, because how we grew up in music, once I became a teenager, I was like, I don't think this is my thing. I don't know if I want to have a family band and, wear matching clothes or whatever. Although we had a great time. But when I'd see those studio players come through my dad's studio and mostly goof off, drink coffee, tell jokes, make fake songs that are just funny, on somebody else's dime. And then they get serious and be like, all right, let's record this song, and put their Nashville number chart up and just rip through them. And I was like, that's sick, So that's when I was like, I think I want to do something like that. And so, yeah, that was probably around, that took me until I was around 17 when I started seeing all that. And that's the only thing I knew I wanted to do, I would sit out in front of that trailer in that dirt at night sometimes with my buddy Brian. We'd see these planes leave Atlanta. I was like, dude, what if somebody paid us, to play an instrument for an artist that we made it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And our youth pastor, Wayne Chastain, a freaking amazing guy. He was like, I wanted to be the drummer, Yeah. Because you can get a girlfriend if you're a drummer, And so I was playing drums in our little band at church. And he quickly demoted me to bass guitar, which is not the sexiest. That's tough to get a girlfriend playing bass, dude.
Is it?
Yeah. Bass ain't that cool.
Yeah, not as cool as the drums.
Blessed are the meek, So he put me on the bass, and I was just so bummed about it. And then he put Brian, my best buddy, on drums, and then this other dude that I know is one of my greatest friends, Jason Horde, who's this actual little prodigy in our town. My uncle Mark chopped his finger off. He was our family guitar player.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
he held a piece of rebar for somebody else to hit with a sledgehammer, which is, bad idea.
Yeah.
So we needed a guitar player, and they were like, there's this kid in town that plays everything, He walked in with a giant rat tail. I was like, this is my dude. And so Wayne, our youth pastor, put him on guitar. And then years later, it's that dude wound up in the band Third Day, that was
nice.
Kind of a big Christian band.
Yeah.
The drummer wound up in this other Christian band called Casting Crowns for 13 years. And then bass was kind of what was the right thing for me for a whole bunch of years,
Really?
Yeah. That's kind of how it started.
Did you know you knew how to, obviously, between your family, did you stand out as the singer?
No, dude.
Not at all?
Bro, my siblings are unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah. I was the ugly duckling of, I just didn't have the ear. You know what I mean? I could sing melody, and it made me so anxious, getting on stage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be the singer guy,
What's wild, just seeing you lead worship for thousands of people now.
Well.
And you don't seem like you're nervous at all.
Yeah, well.
It just took you a while to get through that.
Yeah, there are times where but it's it's easy to make, it's easy to make ourselves too much of the equation. You know what I mean? If we're going to do this Jesus thing, we might as well partner with him. And sometimes I do that well, sometimes I don't. But the whole easy yoke, and the light burden is available to us in all things. So it's like, it took me a while to get to be like, well, what if I screw up and embarrass myself in front of all these people? And then I would screw up, and I'd see my favorite artist screw up, and it's like, who cares, you know? So, yeah, dude, I was trying to do the bass thing, and yeah, was on a tour and in a band that like we've been building. You know, like bands are like, takes like 5 to 7 years, like a small business, to find out if it's gonna work.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when you really like look at it, it takes like well, it did then. Now it's like, me and you could make something with AI and put it on TikTok and it might go crazy, which we can do if you want to. You know? Well, I can't. I still don't. AI, bro. You're probably good with it, right?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about that later. But yeah, so like had this band with some of my best buddies, and you know, built it and had our first #1, and second single was like top 10, trending towards, you know, #1. We were like doing the thing, and then it ended overnight, like just Saturday night on a tour playing the Gamecocks Arena. Manager walks in, hey guys, you know, here's some info, and went home that night, unpacked the bus, record label dropped us, sold the bus. It's crazy. Went in Walmart and our little poster was still like hanging up, you know. It's crazy. But I knew that God had said, like, and he's smart, you know. On that tour, he said, if people ask you to sing to me, say yes. And I was like, cool, but like, I'm not going to do that. I'm the bass dude, you know. And so that ended, and then my church in Atlanta was like, hey, would you consider leading from the microphone? And it, you know, scared the crap out of me, because it was like walking 15 or 20 feet from over here to the microphone is different deal. But yeah, dude, it's been. So you felt like God told you while you were on tour. Oh no, for sure, yeah, because it was so clear and weird. You know what I mean? Like, and the whole like I heard God say to me thing can sound so. People are like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like but it's like a random thought coming from a loving place, you know, and based on direction. It was like, oh, that's weird enough. That's probably God. You know what I mean? And yeah, sure enough, wound up singing, and then eventually writing songs. And dude, you know, loved that. That was like the passion. I was like, I want to do that. And I just sucked so bad at it, you know, for so long. But my wife told me that Jesus told her to tell me to do it. So Jesus and Jamie, dude, thankful for those two.
Yeah.
You know?
So God will speak to you through a random thought that has clarity around it.
Yeah,
or
I think
through
like,
your wife.
Well, and I guess, yeah, and your wife. Yeah, I've learned that. Yeah. Dang, dude. Yeah, I need to do that more, you know?
That's wild that you had that. I had a counselor one time in one of the treatment centers that I was in. I asked her, how do you determine if it's just your crazy head or if that's like, you know, God talking to you? And she described it to me. She said, Dave, did you ever leave the house and you have this like where it stops you kind of in your tracks in the back of your head? You think, did I close the door? Did I lock it?
Fascinating.
She says it's kind of like that. That's
cool. Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Because it is kind of like a, is this my thought? You know, what is this? But I heard this old man that has this like prayer ministry, and at first I thought he was kind of weird, you know. And he said that. He was like, hey, we were at this like worship leaders thing. He's like, I want you all to go spend some time in the woods. Here are a few questions I want you to ask God. Like, how do you feel about me? You know, which was kind of crazy. And just be present, and thoughts that come based on love, you know, pay attention to those. That's the voice of the Holy Spirit. I was like, dang, you know. I was like, this probably won't work. And then, you know, Like an hour later, I was like, you know.
Yeah, I've also, there's a good friend of mine in 12-step program. He really believes that, he's like, hey, God's speaking to you a lot. Like, it's not just this random, once every decade.
Yeah.
He's speaking to you a lot, but just like a radio frequency, you're on the wrong channel almost all the time.
Yeah. I get
and
that.
So when you're when you're like pursuing and seeking God and you're in a good place, that's when you'll hear a lot from him.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm a huge fan and supporter of Firecracker Farm. Alex, the owner, is not only an incredible human being, but he makes an incredible product, and that is why we could not be happier that they are sponsoring the Shoot Me Straight podcast. Each guest, when they come in, will get a sample of Firecracker Farm so they can take it back and enjoy, and I can tell you, to each person that we've given it to, they have not been disappointed. You can put these, put this salt on your favorite food, favorite beverage. I've even seen people put it in their coffee. They love it. There's an assortment of heat, so if you don't like it too hot, they definitely have that taken care of with some mild flavors. And then it goes all the way to extreme heat if you like to sweat. So if you guys are interested in purchasing some, go to firecracker.farm. All right, thank you for listening, and God bless.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, this being still thing, like I think that's in Scripture for a reason. Like, be still and know that I'm God. I feel like it could almost be like, be still so that you can know I'm God. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of had that. There's this guy, this songwriter, worship leader dude named Matt Maher, and I was at a deal, and he ended his worship set, and he just kind of like hung his arms down, and he prayed this prayer. I don't know if I remember. Oh, he was like, he said to everybody, he said, we're going to do this together. And he said, I quiet my tongue to listen to my thoughts. And he would like be still, like for a second, quiet my thoughts, listen to my heart, still for a second, quiet my heart to listen to my spirit, And it's like it's like 200 worship leaders and some like, big people you hear on the radio. And then I quiet my spirit to listen to your spirit. And then he just stood there. It's like 200 people. And people that are used to like all the lights and the arenas and the stuff,
Yeah.
And dude, it was so impactful. So I've tried to start using that little prayer. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, brother Matt. I do think he shows up, man. The pace of life is crazy. Can be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I find that a lot's where I live. I find that affects me a lot. Like in Dallas, I didn't realize how crazy life was in Dallas versus here.
Yeah. You live in a good spot. We live in a great spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that in Atlanta like crazy. And I think even in like church work, one of the things that's like dangerous, like I feel like, I don't remember who I heard say this, but like one of the last places that's kind of like workaholism is celebrated is in like people who work at churches. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, well, you're working for the kingdom, and the kingdom's open 24/7. You know what I mean? Lights always on. Whatever. And I mean, it wasn't even for Jesus. Like he was getting alone a lot, like a whole lot. Yeah. And I noticed that in Atlanta for me, with the combination of a bunch of travel and ministry and and dude, at one point it was like I was kind of gaining the world. 2015, I was like getting to do all the stuff I kind of dreamed of doing. Well, and I'd already, going back to those like that in front of that little double-wide trailer, and looking back, it's like, holy crap, I got to do all that stuff. But 2015, it was like bigger stuff was happening than I imagined, but I was like running myself into the absolute ground. You know what I mean? And then You ever seen the movie What About Bob?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, dude, that was your boy Heath here from 2015 to 2017, dude. Baby steps, everything. You know what I mean? Walk to the car, walk back to the bedroom, lay down. You know, like, it was crazy. Gaining the world and losing my soul.
Do you consider that kind of like a rock bottom changing?
It was the first time that life was unmanageable for me. You know? Where I was like, yeah, it just wasn't. Like, all the little stuff I couldn't do.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so it was like my first real kind of like dark night of the soul, you know? And then it was interesting to start looking at, like, that's where I think I began to, like, really have to learn to trust God, learn about friendship with Jesus, and, you know, him not just caring about my dying, but, like, really my living, you know? Like, that was a fantastic, horrible 2 years.
Yeah.
That changed my life, you know? So, and I mean, heck, it's like, not that can't happen again, you know, but I think it definitely marked some stuff, you know?
You think you went through that and it prepared you for
like,
teenagers?
No, dude, teenagers. I got a song for you. Yeah, Andy Gullahorn, Teenagers.
Okay.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Do you think it prepared you for where you're at today? Because I look at you today and you're like, man, you're well, not only are you great worship pastor and, I mean, just pretty incredible around here, but, I mean, you left a huge position coming here for, from what I can tell, great reasons.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And it's not like I mean, I was pulling out our 15-year-old works at Nigel's in Seaside.
Yeah.
Clarity. That's her name, Claire. I call her Claire. She likes to be called Clarity. Yeah, dude. I mean, and I dropped her off because this was a family move, you know? It was like we hit 20 years of marriage and we walked through a plenty of just like hard things like everybody does. Some of them self-inflicted, some of them just life, you know, like things just happen. And because I didn't like want to leave Georgia, you know. I was like, we live by this lake called Lake Lanier. I was like, just put my ashes in shotgun shells and shoot me over Lake Lanier, you know, sink me out there or something. And because I guess like not really having roots and then like having a house there that didn't have wheels on it was pretty cool, you know. And but dude, God just made it really like kind of like another one of those little moments, I guess, in the tour bus. I was like, is this necessary? And he's like, yeah. And then a couple days later, it reminded me of when I uprooted this little tree and put it in some smaller soil. And our family needed that, man. Like, our marriage needed it. Our kids needed me more, you know. And Elijah, you know Elijah. He's like, I don't think we've ever had this kind of time together. And I needed to learn some new freaking, like, patterns for life. You know, it's like we hit 20 years of marriage. And I was like, I don't know if what we've done will work. And I just need to learn some new rhythms. And Jamie was like fired up, you know. So, and God, I really felt like it was the right thing. And I love, you know, where we are. And Brad, man, that dude is the pastor of our church. He's such a real dude, you know, such a good guy. And so I'm super thankful all the way back to Nigel's, just dropping her off and experiencing some of the things that we've experienced, like the little miracles that aren't little, you know, like just because of some of the stuff we walked through that was so difficult. dropping her off and leaving and just telling God, like, I didn't want to do this, you know? And then weeping in my car, you know, like, because of how grateful I am. Because he just had a different, like, looking back, we've only been here 10 months. And our family is, like, in such a better place, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned the tree, like, better soil here.
Yeah, like, smaller, like, I was all over the place, traveling all the time. Nashville a bunch, you know, leading at a bunch of different places, you know, and like wonderful stuff. It's all like good stuff. It wasn't like bad stuff, but our family was like more and more just not together. And our baby's 13. It's like, we're going to be empty nesters in 5 years, you know? So I don't have much time with them anymore, you know? And then, yeah, getting in some smaller soil and things slowing down. It's been amazing, you know. I want to get me a little electric skateboard, you know.
Yeah, I got one.
Do you?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you feel good about it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I've been old schooling it, you know, a little bit on my daughters. I still got it, you know.
Do you think, what's like, in the last 10 months, in leading worship and being immersed in church culture, do you think it like inoculates you some to Jesus in some ways?
What does that word mean?
Like
inoculates, like, well, you
almost gives you enough of it to like have you miss the whole of it.
Oh, dude, that's the danger for sure. In like in Western church culture, I think like the busy work and the not like just being with God. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the scale that gets tricky. And like as a worship leader, Jesus warned the Pharisees about and everybody about not practicing your righteousness, you know, before people. But it's like, I could very easily get up on Sundays and like do the thing. God, you're so good. You know, all this stuff, whatever. And get a little affirmation. Oh, Heath, thank you, you know, or whatever. And that like scratch an itch that still just depletes, if that's all it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think, yeah, dude, you got to follow the well, and a friend of mine said this, that Andy Gullahorn dude, his music is amazing. You got to follow the breadcrumbs of joy in your life. You know, like the things that, if God's the giver of every good thing, what are the good things you enjoy? You know, and slowing down and doing the things Jesus did, like Sabbath, solitude, silence. I think he just shows up in that stuff and changes me. Confession. You know what I mean? Like, dude, that's huge, which is not, I mean, in the Catholic Church, that's like a normal thing, you know, but yeah, all that stuff is like wildly helpful. You've been a huge help for me, just being such a, like, you're such a welcoming presence and just say whatever, dude, you know? It's really helpful.
Do you think that's what church culture is missing a lot of now? Is you think out of those things, well, probably all of them, but especially if you work in a church, it's got to be hard to just, for me, not working in a church, I put my sin out there. I mean, I'm like, hey, this is where I struggle with. I'm always talking about where I'm struggling.
Yeah.
All the people around me, well, you have a culture of talking about we struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, even in 12 steps meetings, you don't go there because you're on a winning streak. You know?
Yeah.
You go there because you identify with struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And so there's no pretense of, hey, I got to look good or I got to fix myself up and then come to God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, I'm messed up. I need you, God. Like, you got to come in and fix me. Like, and so it's almost, in my experience, especially in the South, Christian culture in the South would be one of the last places that I'd want to go and confess struggling with, and I mean, most guys, it's sex stuff or
porn.
It's, you know.
Lust. I mean, Jesus addressed it in the first, at the beginning of his massive sermon he prepared his whole life for. Anger.
Pride, all those things.
But,
you know, in Christian, like, working in a church would seem to be that much harder to go.
To feel like you can be known, like fully known.
Or to,
that?
This is what I see. This is what I've seen with some churches is guys that I know that have, like, higher up in the church hierarchy is it's almost a game they play of sharing their struggles. There's almost a vernacular for it, like they have their own language of, you know, struggles and stuff like that. And so they almost play a game of being authentic while not being authentic. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah. Well, knowing like, because like you have to get specific to kind of really find freedom. You know, it's like, I know just being married 21 years now, it's like, if I'm, and I'm not saying, I don't know exactly how, I'm not the freaking expert, you know. I was about to talk like I was. But for Jamie and I, it's like, for us to know, you don't want to keep things, like anything that's in the dark that's brought to the light gets healed, you know? But yeah, I think like, you know, Paul, who essentially was this social scientist of building the church, like said, well, if I'm going to boast about something, I'm going to boast in my weakness. What's not a sexy move or a good leadership move is to do that, you know? But it's where people find freedom, where I find freedom. And I think people that are coming to church, you know, look and go, wait a minute, I think that's a real dude. Maybe he knows a real God that affects his real life, you know?
That's a good word.
Thanks, man.
I do think one of my old pastors used to say that the time that he finds that him being a pastor of this church is negatively affecting his relationship with the Lord, he's like, I'm out. I'll not be a pastor.
Yeah, sure. Because God doesn't care. I mean, we're all going to be replaced. It doesn't matter, like, we're all at some point, and he doesn't care about position. I mean, I think he gifts people and wires people for a thing, but it's like, you know, what's really unique to me is Jamie, Ryan, Elijah, Claire, and Olivia. And that, like, that's got to be my first little bullseye of ministry. And it's also the most shaping one, you know? Not like the stage on Sunday morning, because it's significant, but that's a lot easier, you know?
Hey, what's up, guys? So when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I put on training all over the country for LE and civilians. I also travel a lot for my nonprofit, the Pipe Hitter Foundation. And as you guys know, travel, going back and forth, can wear you down. But this past year, I have found the antidote. So let me put you on to Aquavita, Destin's premier IV therapy and oxygen bar. This place is owned and operated by a board-certified ER physician with over 23 years of experience, so you know your health is in good hands. Every IV drip is mixed to Board of Pharmacy standards and backed by CDC level infection control. Whether you're dealing with a fatigue, a hangover, jet lag, stress, immunity issues, or even PMS, they've got custom vitamin drips and boosters tailored just for that. When you go inside, the place is pretty awesome. It puts you at ease right when you go in there. They have comfy lounge chairs, which are perfect for singles or couples, full group sessions. And you can even book the whole space for bachelor or bachelorette parties, race day recovery, or wellness events. While you're in there, they go the extra mile too. They'll give you blankets, sleep masks, earplugs, aromatherapy oxygen, all complimentary. And the best part, every visit includes direct care from the physician and experienced RNs, all focused on fast, safe, and affordable wellness. So if you're in the Destin area, hit up Aquavita. Your body will definitely thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to this whole conversation.
There is.
You know?
One thing we were talking about before we started recording, I think, and I imagine it's probably even more so when you're in leadership at a church, especially, is your own personal growth. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're both in our 40s and looking back and going, wow, you know, now that I think about that thing that happened and this thing that happened and like, holy crud, that wasn't right. You know, and you start looking back at your life and you're like, shoot, like, and, you know, for me, I have really crazy background. And so when I look back at my history.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
Well, there's a lot that I still need to work through because there's a lot of stuff that I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the more that I grow in that, man, the healthier I'm going to get, the more effective I'm going to get. I wonder, like, I couldn't imagine working for a church. It'd be like one of the last things that I would want to do because I feel like it would stifle.
Sure.
You know, but I, you know, if that's your calling, then you have to set aside that time of just personal growth. And like you're talking about, you're going for 3 days.
Yeah.
To do this, like,
to read a 850 word story that I wrote in detail about something from childhood. Yeah.
Which is wild that you would think how important it is to go back and look at your story, look at your life, like grow from it, learn from it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, rarely does that happen. Rarely do I do that.
Well, you've done a ton of work, dude.
I have done some.
You're a pretty free guy, you know. I mean, I know we're journeying more towards that all the time and all the facets of our life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, I'm going up. Tomorrow night, and spending time with 5 dudes. And I mean, the whole deal is like, I'm a part of this thing called Worship Circle, and so the guy who runs it, my friend Todd, is taking a bunch of the leadership through this deal because it's like super impacted his life. And so at these events, it's like all these worship leaders that will gather a couple times a year. They're online communities, and it's like, you know, all this awesome stuff, and we'll come together. And the last one we did, a lady that helped start this place called the Allender Center, and I'm still finding out a bunch about it, so hopefully I don't misexplain it or whatever. But Dan Allender, you know, doctorate of psychology dude, like super smart, done this stuff forever, and started seeing all this wiring in adults that comes from specific stories that happen between the ages of 4 and 18. Whether it's capital T trauma, baby T trauma, you know, abuse, like abandonment, you know, or whatever. A parent who was like just not present at all and that communicated something. And the big deal is like, he talks about how your ability to be able to process the thing that happened in your childhood, the things that happen, the narratives, stories specifically, your ability to be able to process that safe with somebody who is open-armed and, ask questions. If you don't have that, it really gets into the wiring of why you do what you do as an adult, So it's very specific. So like you said, you're talking about like struggles. And I don't know how this works in the like big church Sunday morning deal.
Yeah.
But I hope more and more I'm chasing a rabbit, but I hope more and more of the AA 12-step community infiltrates the church, because, it's wildly helpful and it's super specific. Mm-hmm. But these stories are like that, so you sit with a pastor, therapist person for 3 days and 5 other guys, and people fly in and come from different places, and you read, like, as grown men, this thing from your childhood, and then people just sit with you and ask you questions, hug you.
Have you ever experienced anything like this before? Oh, you're in for a treat.
I mean, like, I've experienced a few, not like this, not this intentional.
Yeah.
By no means, So I'm nervous about it, anxious about it, excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, and I do, man. I just like, growing up, all I heard in church, minus my dad, the spiritual director, mentor guy I meet with once a month, amazing dude. Mm-hmm. He's like, why'd you keep following Jesus? Like, most people don't that grew up the way you did, And my dad, my mom had like real relationship with God, But the church culture was like, boy, you got 1 foot in hell and 1 on a banana peel, like, you're going to burn, like little kid, everybody's burning, that was the essential deal. And that God was super angry.
Yeah.
But it's like, but there wasn't any talk of how Jesus started his one message: repent, change the way you're thinking, because the kingdom of God is at hand. Because he cares about our living, so much. So I don't know why I started that. You asked something about
just your trip.
Doing the trip. Yeah, so like, I think it's really cool to look into the specific woundings of your life, and not navel gazing. It's not like this freaking whatever, everything about me, but God wants to heal us and help us walk into more freedom and wholeness. There's only one you. You being really free gives God a lot of glory. You being you, it's like, and I've seen it, like this place where we're at, the people that come in and out of here, so the most whole and healed and free and version of who he dreamed up, Heath, is like, dude, that's a good thing. It's like,
yeah, I think here's what a lot of guys, and here's where I land around some of that. I've done so much therapy throughout my life, and even just being a therapist. But
you're a therapist? I
was for a little while.
Wow.
There's times and places for things, right?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
A lot of our guests have been military guys, or special force type guys. Like, the time to like look at your inner child stuff, it's not the battlefield, right? It's suck it up, like, just perform. And that's how it should be.
Sure.
Because you don't want to be emotional really at all in that. You want to be tactical.
Right.
But then shoving stuff down all the time, like, you can't be all or nothing in that. I mean, there's times and places. And so if you're not growing emotionally, spiritually, physically, like all those things throughout your days, weeks, months. Man, it's you're missing out. And I think there's insights that come from like big cathartic events. I mean, we used to do these like Gestalt therapy is more, I feel it here, and if this could speak, what would it say type, and it's real physical. And so you'll have trauma come out, and you'll have, just absolutely snot, bawling.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So I've not done that.
Yeah.
But that's like,
it's great.
Yeah.
Right. But those are one-time events that usually set in motion some things that are going to be these like more dull, boring, like the biggest things is, hey, spending that time with God in the mornings. The biggest things is, finding that rest and silence and being plugged into community. And
dude, serving other people.
100%.
I mean,
finding your gifts and being and utilizing them.
Yeah.
Those are the things that should be steady, but those type of events sometimes can lead to these insights and these things that it's like that was like trapped, which is cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the guys will come out of events like that, or they'll do ayahuasca or ibogaine or something like that, and then they're like, dude, I swear by this, and I understand they're feeling so freed up from it, which is awesome. But that's not where the real, like that real growth comes a lot in the mundane mornings, and that conversation that someone leads to something, or that confession that you did with a brother.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not confessing at least once or twice throughout the week. And you think of most guys don't.
Yeah.
No one really knows them.
Yeah. It's crazy. And no matter, like, eventually stuff comes out sideways. You know what I mean? Like, if you just keep shoving it down, the older you get, something's happening.
Yeah, have kids, it'll come out sideways.
Oh, dude. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is that thing, man. That's like, I really think the confession thing daily. I really like the daily inventories. Right?
Yeah. It's 10-step.
Yeah. Preston and I were talking about that, and he was like, you should do those. So I printed them off.
Have you been doing?
Yeah, I haven't done it every night.
Oh,
I will say I've missed. Yeah, I've missed a couple. But it's so awesome.
Yeah.
And not in like I think in the church world, one thing that, well, when I say church world, I'm talking about like Christian professionals, guys like me.
Professional Christians.
Yeah. It's a weird term, isn't it? Yeah, that probably, it's different.
In the church world.
Yeah, in the
it probably takes it different in the church world, like almost like
some people feel like it's kind of
God.
worksy. Yeah, it's like this. But that's the thing that I'm finding, with, and everybody there. I don't think there are people that aren't addicted to something. In a way, like I feel like, and maybe you can be like, well, it's different, but I think the thing that's like beautiful and really helpful about the 12-step is an AA community is like everybody else is still trying to manage. You know what I'm saying? And like that's exhausting. Like sin management.
Agree.
It's not helpful. And Jesus wasn't about it at all. No. So he didn't even care about, he was a man of no reputation. So anyway, it's really cool and super helpful, the stuff I've been, learning. And
yeah, if you think about it, when you're doing a 10 step, a 10 steps is really about, it's really about reviewing your day and growth. So you're reviewing your day. Like what business would you do that you wouldn't review and go, okay, like, but it's not a shaming thing. It's not a works like, oh, I've been bad. Like it's all paid for. Like everything's paid for.
Yeah.
He past, present, future. And so when you're reviewing it, you're really going, oh, I let obstacles get in my way of my genuine relationship with God today, or I got off. So it's really more just like on track. Yeah. It's just veering you back to
the good,
and growing from. You want mistakes because your mistakes are going to help you grow and learn.
Yeah, I mean, and like God's will is really a good thing. Like that's one thing I like about it. Like on the self will, God's will side. Because that even used to feel like a tightrope for me. And it's really like the Grand Canyon in a way. Like, but reviewing it, his will's really good. It's not like he wants us to be compliant dogs. You know what I mean? Where it's like my dog obeys because, it just wants this thing, But, like, he wants really good for our lives. That doesn't mean I'm going to get the F-350, King Ranch I want. That would probably not,
Maybe.
Maybe at some point. But but it's been really, really cool.
Yeah.
It was funny. Our 15-year-old was like, "Hey, what are these?" I was doing it in the bed, and she was like, "I can tell you."
Have her do it.
yeah. She was doing it for me and Jamie. It was awesome. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I do think one of the best things that has helped me with my relationship with God is kids. I learned more about God's nature from my kiddos. It's not that it's some new spiritual thing that's not in the Bible. It is, but it's helping. It's like solidifying. Oh, he really does love me. And it's still to this day. I mean, God blew me up 24 years ago. And to this day, I haven't like surpassed the basics. Like it is. Oh, he's actually real.
Yeah, that's cool thought.
He wants the best for. Like he really
does
the best for me. He doesn't. It's not that he doesn't want me to ever experience pain, but he wants me to grow.
Right.
Like he wants the real best for me.
Yeah.
He really loves me. Like these basic things that, when I think of my kids, it's like, no, I really, and he's the perfect father. I'm not.
Oh,
but
dude.
He's like, he really, if he loves me like this, wow.
Like he delights in you, dude. Yeah. He likes you.
Yeah.
You ever thought about that? Like God's proud of his boys.
It's wild.
Before, we accomplish anything, I like that.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And the kids thing, dude, it's like, we're too serious. The older we get, it's like life is just, especially as men, I guess, like we stop playing, And Jesus saying, I forget the third one, if you're going to enter the kingdom of God, you have to come. Yeah, you have to become like a child. Children are trusting, playful. And the kingdom of God now. Like we can live under the reach of his kingdom now. We don't have to, but it can reign over this place, or we can be like, nah, we're going to do our thing. And then your righteousness has to exceed that of the Pharisees. So it can't be BS. It's, it's a heart thing. He cares about our heart and honesty, spirit and truth. That thing. Show up who you are, where you are. You don't have to pretend. I don't remember the third one. I wish I did. But the kid thing, it's like the breadcrumbs of joy in a way, Skateboarding. Hopefully I don't freaking break my neck, but.
Yeah, you're going to have to try mine out.
Yeah. Is it fast?
Yeah, it's pretty fast. It goes, I think, 31 miles an hour.
No way.
I don't take it
Yeah,
that
that's
fast.
enough you could jack yourself up. Dude.
Yeah, I don't go that fast on it, but.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on and
bro,
your background and
thank you.
And your story's impactful, and you're helping. The audience doesn't know this, but man, you're impactful for thousands of people. So
thanks, man. I'm figuring it out one day at a time. Try not to get farther than that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's my imagination.
Yeah.
And dude, vice versa. You such a helpful soul to me moving down here. So I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Doing good work.
All right. Out.
Hey, what's up, guys? So as you know, when I'm not podcasting, I'm doing a lot of instructing shooting courses, whether it's from basic to advanced. And the one product I'd love to see people bring to the range is a suppressor for obvious reasons, because when you shoot, you want to shoot like a gentleman. And over the course of my career and also while instructing, I have got to shoot a multitude of different suppressors, and there's only one that I really love that I stick with, and that is elevated silence. I've been shooting that now for over a couple years. There is very little to no blowback. It's definitely one of the quietest suppressors out there, and believe me, I put it to the test. They are made to last. So whether you're a seasoned shooter or new to the game, Elevated Silence has a suppressor to match your needs. Their commitment to quality ensures that each product enhances your shooting sessions, making them more enjoyable and memorable. If you are looking to pick up a suppressor, go to elevatedsilence.com. Thank you and God bless.